Hello everybody, welcome back to Ocola Permaculture. I just got some land here in the Ocola, Florida area. We've been doing permaculture in the west, Arizona area, Idaho. We've been a little bit in Utah. We've got this solar oven going right now though, cooking our meal. Looks like from the shadow over there we got a good enough time to cook this. I only have another hour and a half that I can cook anyhow, and then I gotta go pick up a load for my other job, which is doing over-the-road trucking. And because I pause a lot, one of my major haunts is here in Florida. I have some land in Tennessee too that we do this at. Tennessee land I can access a lot easier than this land. Came in last night, tried to cut that dead tree. I ended up breaking it in the middle, not breaking it down below. I was just doing it in hand saws. But this green pine I was able to cut, and it gave me a nice trail in. There's kind of a swampy ditch right here. Anyhow, I've got a lot of my provisions that I decided to bring for this, about $500 worth of tools. I plan on putting them in that 55-gallon drum got for free with one of the loads that I had to haul. That was going to be refuse, and so I snagged it for this operation. Anyhow, we'll be putting some of this stuff in here. This area, in the military, I was an avid survivalist. I'm by no means a botanist. But, this area has been reforested after they've clear cut it. I do not believe, from what I can tell on the aerial photos, that this area was naturally growing pine. But those large trees are all pine. And this variety of pine doesn't even have pine boughs that come close to the ground where you could use it in a regular scenario. But I bought an acre and a quarter about here. My neighbor's lot over there is about the same, and he's only using about a third of an acre for his yard there. So our property goes way back there. I'll need to get in here with a backhoe. I think I'll set it up, probably clear this area from here over to that tree there, and come in here with my chainsaw and a backhoe and kind of get this cleaned up a bit. Maybe even try and get a road around the perimeter all along there to here eventually, and maybe a road down the center so that we can do permaculture here. A lot of people think, I gotta do all this crazy growing. Well, in Florida here, if you can afford 10 to 30 grand to buy some land out this way, you might be able to get an acre cheaper than that, but you don't really even need an acre. You might be able to find a lot for 5,000 or so that's just a quarter acre, a third of an acre, something of that size, and you could do a lot of stuff with it. People are talking about chop and drop. Well, I've got it all over there. There's saw palmetto back there. I can't tell you on the, I do know I have a little bit of oak on the property. I found a few evidences of that. In the very back, they say I have cypress because I do have standing water on a little bit of it. The water level is fairly close to where we're at. Anyhow, that right there is my only highway in. Like I said, if I had to parachute in here, like I was saying when I was in the military, and go and survive, my goodness, you can hardly travel through this stuff. It's pretty darn thick. A lot of stuff snags you. But, being able to cut down a log here and there, use that as a little highway to get in there. Once I'm in there a little further, I've got some brush cutters and that so that I can make some trails in there. I think one of the plans I'll do here is make some trails that go through it, do some hugelkultur mounds with some of the brush, and probably do some tree houses. About 30 miles away from here, I was driving down the highway. 46 years. I mean, I've been avid survivalist. Been out in the woods in Washington, Afghanistan, Colombia, all over the place here in, the Wasatch Front, Uinta Mountains, the Rocky Mountains, all over the country. And I've been to Alaska, and I never saw a bear. I don't think they like me. Anyhow, I never saw a bear until just yesterday. Down there's the highway, and about 30 miles that way, saw a little bear, a baby bear, which means the mama bear's right near. And I saw bear signs that the DOT people had put up to watch for bear crossings. I was like, oh yeah, right. It's just like all the other bear crossings where I never see bear. And then right after the sign, I see a bear. Long story short, this neighbor here, very friendly guy, gave me a lot of info on the local area here because I am not native to this area. He told me that that he thought that he'd had bear come and rummage in his garbage. But a lot of people would say, well, what am I going to do with all that overgrown brush? Well, it's going to take some time. Like I spent a couple hours the other day, was able to clear, 10 feet of path, 10, 20 feet. Used to do Forest Service work back in the day when I was a young buck. And, but anyhow, look at right here. There's this nice, sandy, well-drained soil. A dozer's come by to build this nice road. Sand, and never, I drove my semi on it actually the other day. It's not going to get muddy on you. It's well drained, even in the heavy water. And that soil right there's enough rain in Florida that you can do a lot of stuff with just a bank like that to start out with. And my property, I walked past my property. My property starts. It goes a little bit past where the 55-gallon drums are, and then it starts right here. Right down here, if you see that, I planted some cactus native to Florida that I got the other day. I'm growing some garlic already. I put some potato in. If you can see right here, I'm gonna start about 5 or 6 coconuts, see if they'll grow. They may not. What I'm doing here is the tactic of a plant race. And I'm just going to let the plants, I planted peanuts. There's garlics. I haven't buried them all. The turmeric. I'm gonna be growing some native gingers to the south. Lemons, right there is the key lime. Mexicans call it the Mexican lemon. I have regular Floridian lemons that I'm going to be growing, some limes. I'll probably try tangerines out here. I'm just going to start this area as my growing experiment area and see what'll grow. Along with the cactus, a lot of people don't know this, but here in Florida, they grow dragon fruit. And let me show you here on my makeshift table. I'm gonna experiment with seeds of the serrano pepper, the star fruit, the mango, the guero chile, the tomatillo. I'll put some of its seeds in here. But, from my time in Philippines, I used to grow a lot there. Haven't been back since COVID. But I do have land over there also that I do permaculture. And the dragon fruits, both these varieties, all you got to do is slice a little bit of them into wafers and plant the wafers, and the little black seeds inside will germinate quite well if they're kept moist. And here in Florida, I just plan on watching this roadside, and I don't care if some people steal it or if the bears come and steal some of it. I just want to see what'll grow. And as I make the trails further back in there, like I said, some tree houses. I plan on building 2 or 3 tree houses back there, big enough that people could go camping, because I belong to a group of friends, and we like to do charitable things, grow food for the less fortunate. And that's what I plan to do with this land, is just see how productive we can get it to be. I'm not against the pine trees. Pine trees are a wonderful survival plant. You know, some of the younger ones, you could get some leaves for doing pine needles, but this variety doesn't seem to do so well. Probably the water here in Florida. I mean, it goes fine. I mean, obviously it's growing, but its branches seem to rot away and fall off, and then it's only kind of alive at the top. And that may be this variety. And like I said, I'll have to count the needles and figure out what variety of pine this is. In future videos, I'll tell you. But the saw palmetto's back there, edible. It's great for a lot of medicinal uses for male health of the male organs. And I know the natives ate quite a bit of it. It's also good for building roofs and shelters and so on. But I will be building, like I said, 3 little treehouse cabins where hopefully one family could live in each one for a camping environment only. At this point, we're not planning on living here, but because it's one of my haunts that I'll be at regularly, I want to be able to use, you know, the government makes me take a day and a half off every 70 hours a week. Might as well put it to good use here. So anyhow, I'll be coming back with a lot more things. You know, we only invested about $100 in some of the seeds we did, and still got plenty to plant out here, and we'll mainly be doing this bank. One thing to note is that is the south side, this is the north side. So I've got this clearing made by the road already, and I'm gonna just take advantage of it. And that's part of permaculture, is taking what you got and making the best you can with it. And I guarantee there's a lot of native plants in here that's going to have a lot of uses, and we'll obviously be using a lot of that. And the stuff that we don't want so much and would like to replace it with something else that's more admirable for benefiting our lives, we'll put into, more than likely, excuse me, we'll more likely be putting in our perennials, mainly perennials. We might do a little bit of annuals here, because you don't have to water this area too much. A lot of the other permaculture areas, Arizona, you do a lot of the trees and the cacti and stuff like that, because you want to be able to plant and come back and, you know, eat young tender cactus leaves, eat the cactus fruit, like the dragon fruit we have over there. And right now it might not be much, but I mean, look at all that foliage, just perfect for doing what all people are trying to always grow some plant to do chop and drop. But right here in Florida, do I need to grow anything for chop and drop? My goodness, it's everywhere. That's my issue right now, is just finding a pathway in, you know, because it's just so thick of foliage. So saw palmetto isn't the easiest thing to travel through, so I've been in there all morning just cutting the length of the tree, just be able to access through there. And so what I'll do now is take the 55-gallon drum, get it down in there where I can leave it for now, because I only have another hour and a half here. And then when I come back, I got my tools stored away in there. Hopefully the bears won't mess with it too much, and no neighbors. I'm actually more worried about a bear, but you know, you might have a neighbor wanting to get into stuff here and there. But like I said, I'm not super worried. It's $500. If somebody kites that from me while I'm on the road, so be it. But, you know, it's not easily viewed down this path. You got to be at this angle. And, you know, even so, I mean, there's branches here as the vehicle traffic goes by. And this neighbor, I believe, he's going to protect me from anything happening, you know, by and large. I mean, right now, what could anybody do? Come in and make a path for me? I mean, even a motorcyclist wanting to drive on my property wouldn't bother me too much at this point, because he'd be making a path, but you couldn't even drive a four-wheeler or a motorcycle down here. So as I get paths on, maybe I'll put in a gate, because I don't want to attract people that want to just ride over my plants and everything. But I don't think I'm going to have a lot of issue, because there's only, you know, 5-10 people within a mile of me. So, and the good thing is I got a neighbor, which hopefully, you know, it seems like we've got a good relationship, and he can help me maintain things here. So anyhow, there's my if the clouds go away, I might be able to cook my meal. And I don't have time to drop what I'm doing and cook that, so hopefully it'll cook. If not, I'll have to make a stop and cook it at a truck stop. But I do have some electric cooking utensils and electric skillet in the truck, but I usually end up, when I'm driving, being too busy to really stop and do a lot of my cooking. That's why it's nice if I could get some good healthy food growing here. You know, when I'm in the west, I can stop and get my food from those areas, and then when I get to the west here, the east, I can come here to Florida and hopefully year round be able to harvest something. I planted some almond trees out here. Have no clue if they'll grow. I know they do well in California. And I'm just, like I said, doing a plant race, letting the plants see if they can survive. I'm giving them that south-facing little slope there from the dozer, seeing if anything will grow. And like I say, whatever grows, it's going to be telling me a lot of information about this local area. And the more I'm here, the more advantageous that information is going to be on deciding what we're going to be doing with the land. So, and like I said, I'll be coming out. You know, nowadays you don't really need to be a full-on botanist, just with all the cool software that they have out now, where you can aim your camera at the foliage and it'll tell you what plant that is. Then you can go do some research on that plant. But along with that, I'd give a bit of warning. You really should study out the plant very well before you think you've identified it. Those softwares are cool, but you should get, definitely, as the Bible says, 2 or 3 witnesses that it is what it is. Read some independent stuff, not just the self-proclaimed experts on it, but go out there and read stuff in some official literature, internet and otherwise. A lot of people are like, oh, it's on the internet, you can't trust it. And that's not true. When I was in the military, we used to make top secret documents out of what was found on the open internet, and we call that open source information. And there's, just because you have, you know, I get really, really annoyed with people that want to shut down other people's opinions, you know, just so that they can have their way. And I'm okay to hear somebody's wrong opinion, you know. And he has as much, you know, I served in a war to protect us and protect our freedoms. And then I get back home, and what do we find? A bunch of bickering and arguing about letting people have freedom, you know. We need to get back to freedom. And that's part of what this place is going to be for me, is a little niche of freedom. In the cities, you can't do stuff like this, guys. You know, I was listening, you know, I was a military linguist, and I'm very fluent in Spanish. And I was listening to some Latinos talk about how wonderful it was, our big cities here in the United States, on a Latin channel. And I'm like, you know what? That's exactly opposite of what's freedom for me. You know, I don't even go to New York anymore. I've been there plenty. I don't even truck there anymore. I will go to California. I still got to work, and a lot of work comes in from the ports in California. And, you know, unless we figure out a way to get ports into somewhere else that are accessible for our world trade setup that we have, you know, I'm going to have to be somewhat connected to these systems. But I'm using those systems to get me freedom. And so I would tell you, I think that anybody can get out there and do some permaculture with a tenth of an acre, quarter of an acre. Start at the roadside, move your way in as you can. If you got a big forest, that's a good bad problem, because yeah, you can't navigate that right now. I mean, I can't walk it all in there. You know, if I had to travel a mile through, I can't even get to the back of the property, and I've been here all day, you know. And so I would say, you know, little by little, you can, you know, I mean, that my neighbor there, he's able to conquer his yard. Yeah, he put it in straight grass because that's what Americans we do. But, you know, there's all kinds of things that can be done that are productive. And, you know, I love that YouTube. I forget the YouTube. I'll put it in the comments if I can find it again. But there's a father, I think he was divorced, and his kids were older and wanted to stay with their father. And so he just took his regular city slicker neighborhood, like quarter of an acre, third of an acre, whatever, and made it into something that was growing more food than what him and his children were needing. And then he started selling, you know, succulents and lettuces and stuff that were all helpful, healthy, homegrown to local restaurants. And all kinds of stuff can be done, you know, and should be done. We need to get back to our roots. You know, the Native Americans, my goodness, they could put me to shame, the Native Americans that were in the Florida regions here. You know, they'd know how to, you know, they'd spent lifetimes and lifetimes learning from generation to generation on different uses of these plants. And so my hat's off to our Native brothers. I am part Native, very little. I'm part of the Mohawk tribes if you go way back in history, but they've been colonized. You know, none of them even exist anymore. So, you know, getting back to our roots of what, you know, the more we can be self-sustaining, taking care of our own basic needs. I'm not saying I'm trying to provide every little thing, but I'm going to try and provide all of my basic needs. Plan on bringing in some totes here, collecting rainwater. Yeah, the water out here, there's a lot of water out here, but most of it's stagnant water that, you know, a lot of tannins in the water from all the old foliage going through it. Even though it's all sand out here, you know, most of Florida is pretty much a coral reef that's slowly deteriorating. But all of that foliage, all of it's been losing its leaves for 20 years. No one's been in that, you know. And so, do I need to worry about a lot of chop and drop here on this property? No, I don't. I need to get in there and chop and drop a whole bunch just so I can get around. And so I can plant some things in there different than just what's there. I would love to find a great use for the saw palmetto. I plan on, at this point, I don't know everything about saw palmetto, but I you know, most herbalists know that it's a very useful herb, and I've taken it in supplements for a long time. I've never actually harvested it myself, but I plan on doing quite a bit with it in the future, and I'll share that with you if you want. And if you like it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks. Take care.